Hi everyone, MarisArmoury here, but I guess you already know that. At the beginning of August, I had a bit of an in-between project. About 5 years ago, I made my Zuko costume, but I got sick in the week before the convention, so I never actually managed to make the shoes. Now, I might maybe have a photo shoot coming up with this costume, so it's time to actually add those shoes. So, without further ado, let me show you how I made boot covers for my Zuko costume. I will be going over these shoes because I think, well, the shape is pretty much what I'm going to need for these shoes. I already made some preemptive patterns. I grabbed an old blanket, cut it up, and pinned it all around the shoe, and then drew out the kind of patterns I needed. For now, it's just 4 pieces that make up the entire shoe, but I already drew out the parts where I want it to be yellow and what should be the purple reddish fabric. I tried color matching my fabrics because unfortunately I did not have any leftover fabrics. So this is the fabric that I originally used. This is the vest kind of thing that he wears. It's all cotton. And I tried color matching it as best as I could. So I think this one, I'm sorry for the light, but I think this one in color fits quite nicely, although this is a slightly coarser weave than this one. This is a really fine weave, but that doesn't really matter, you won't see it anyway unless you're really close to the costume. And the yellow was a bit more difficult, but I found this one, it's pretty okay, except that this is a stretchy fabric, where this is no stretchy fabric. But I think for the shoes it's actually really handy if we have a bit of a stretchy fabric, because then it will fit and tighter around the shoe. Yeah. So about the lighting thing, it's really warm outside today, so I have my windows and curtains pretty much closed, because my craft room is in bright sunlight pretty much all day, so that's why I'm working with the curtains closed today. Anyway, I think I will just cut these out as if these were pattern pieces without any seam allowance. I know that I want all yellow stripes to be 3 centimeters wide. I do want to make the top part and the bottom part separately, so I can put it on easier, and it's easier if that's just 2 separate parts. It saves me a bit of work. In which I think I will attach the yellow stripe, and that goes all around here. That will be attached to the top part of the shoe, so we have the purple part with the yellow stripe, and then separately we get the shoe part with the yellow stripe here and the yellow stripe there. So, let's get to cutting and actually making the proper pattern pieces. I think I will make the strips, the yellow strips, a bit smaller than 3 centimeters, because it is a stretchy fabric and that's where we get the tightness that holds it all around the shoe correctly. Because I'm not yet sure how I'm going to make all of this stay up and not sag down along the shoe, but that is stuff that we will just figure out on the go. The thing is with Zuko's shoes, they differ quite a lot in the series and in the comics, and I mean in the comics, can I give the, I mean Avatar is pretty old, but still, if you haven't seen the end of Avatar, the series yet, skip ahead a few seconds. I mean, the moment that Zuko is Emperor, his shoes do differ a bit, I guess, if I look at the pictures. Then you can clearly see that there's 2 separate parts, and his toes curve up pretty far with the yellow soles. But when I looked at the battle between Zuko and Azula at the end, I mean, there are some full body shots in there, so I can easily look at the shoes. But there I only saw a yellow strip on the front, not even the yellow ankle stripe. And I'm not sure how yellow his soles were. I mean, the pointed toes is also something that's relatively difficult to make if you have a shoe that doesn't really fit it. So that's why I went with a mishmash of everything, and I'm still not sure if I want to make the toes pointed or not, but that's something that I'll just do as we go along or something. Now let's see, this is yellow, this is yellow, this is all purple fabric. So let's start by cutting these out. So I'm cutting everything out double-sided. This way, well, I immediately have it for the right and left shoe. It's just now to figure out what the best way is to fit this all on the fabric. I guess I'll just cut it like this. And we've got plenty of fabric left over. There we go for the purple parts. Now we have to determine what to exactly cut for the yellow parts. As you can see, it's a nice stretch fabric that's already rolling up at the edges, so as usual, I'm not really looking forward to working with this. So my camera decided to shut off, and I'm not entirely sure where it shut off, so I hope I didn't skip all too much, and I'll just repeat a bit. So now for the yellow straps, we have the two pieces that we actually cut the patterns for, and then we have some strips that we'll need to determine the length of. For the top of the feet, that's a strap of 20 centimeters. Then for the front, or is this the back? This is the back. For the back, we'll need a strip of about 30, I guess, and 27 for the front. And what does it say on the other side? That's also approximately 30 and 28. So I need a strip of 20, 30, and 28. All of about 3 centimeters wide. I have 25 centimeters in length, so we'll cut everything this way. So we're cutting everything at full length, which means that with the ankle straps we'll have some overlapping yellow parts, but we can always, at the moment that we're putting it together, we can determine which straps we'll cut off. Let's see, 3 centimeters wide. Because these will not be actual clothing pieces, I care slightly less if everything is completely straight grain. It's of course still best if everything's straight grain, but with stretchy fabrics like these, that's a problem sometimes anyway. And now I realized I forgot one, which is this one. That's 11. Okay, now this entire mess of pins is ready to cut. Yeah, luckily for me it's still clear where I have to cut, so let's start cutting. all, I'm going to put the fronts together. So the front strip on one side and then so on the other side. I guess that gives me a good basis to start attaching the bottom straps after that. So yeah, let's go and put this together. And then there was a tube. So this is one of the legs. Well, I sewed all 4 parts into a tube. And I'm happy that I made the yellow part slightly smaller than the total circumference because, well, it sits on it quite comfortably. It does not bunch the shoe that's underneath. This is nice on the seam that's on the back, and the seam that's on the front is here. So that means it's also nicely centered, and I think that this is a very good basis to start making the rest of the shoe on. Next up, I guess, is the yellow bands around the ankles, because they get attached to this part, and then we can start on the separate shoe part. Yesterday, while watching COVID videos, I have been doing some work on this. Right now we have the tube, as I already had yesterday, but now with the added lower band, I think it looks quite good. And I also added the bottom of the shoe. So these are 2 separate parts that will just slip over one another. So they can be taken off and on easily. Let's finish the bottom and the top and see if at the end of today I can have one finished boot cover. Change of plan. When test fitting the entire boot, I found out that having the toe tip stand up, even just the slightest bit, already looks a lot better. So I will actually do a bit of a pointed up toe, and the way that I'm thinking of doing that now is by attaching a bit of felt. I have some felt left over from Rivessa's hat, and it's quite thick and sturdy felt. So I put the felt on the bottom of the shoe, and if I pin it under a bit of tension, the toe stands up just the slightest bit. This will also help solve the problem of getting this part to stay on properly. So I have now just pinned it only the slightest bit, and as you can see, it actually stands up, oh, just the bit that I want. So now I have to refine this, and then I can sew the felt to here, and I will probably cover the bottom with a bit more yellow fabric. Problem solved. So with a lot of trial and error, this is what I came up with. The point of the shoe is not as high as I had hoped, but at least it's nice and square. There is also the problem of when I put the felt underneath, I still have to be able to get this thing off and on. So the felt can't be too big. So this is what I came up with. There's just the tiniest bit of felt here up until the point and down here. This way I can still, with some trouble, I can put it, take it off and put it on again. And then when I adjust it a bit, we have the pointy toe again. So I think this is a good moment to actually start putting this together. So, moment suprême, will it fit? I folded over the edge and just stitched around it, and I backstitched the fabric to the felt, and then one running stitch at the bottom so that this fabric won't fall off either. Now let's see, will it fit and will it sit up? At least I can get it over the shoe. That's good. That actually looks pretty good. I'm surprised. With the way it's sitting right now, you don't really see the rounding of the shoe, the original shoe point, and oh, that's quite a nice square box toe thing. So for the bottom, all that remains is to finish, see what has to happen with this, and to add an extra bit of yellow at the bottom to hide all the seams and make it appear as if the sole is yellow. This is what it looks like with the flap pinned on. I took a bit of yellow fabric, stretched it out, pinned it on, just stuck a gazillion pins in there. So now it's just a matter of hand sewing it all together. And I hope it stays like this, because I think that actually looks quite pretty. And just this little yellow piece already, I think, gives the impression that the entire sole is yellow, which is absolutely not the case. But no one will see that. I'm surprised, but I'm actually done. The front is fully in. I hand stitched this on with a blanket stitch. It's pretty much near invisible as I stitched everything with the red thread, so you don't see anything. I'm really happy about that. Looks really neat. Now let's see if everything fits. That actually looks awesome, if I may say so myself. You hardly see the tip of the original shoe, and well, it's nice and square and blocky and pretty much everything that it's supposed to be. Do see that I still have to finish the bottom edge of this tube properly, but I guess I would call it complete. There we go, one Zuko shoe. And that in 2.5 days work. Now we of course have to replicate this for the other shoe. Yeah, I'm happy with it. And then, a day of sewing later, we have 2 boot covers for a Zuko cosplay. The second one actually went together quite fast, as in I literally started on this morning. Of course I had the pattern pieces cut out, but all of the sewing was done today. I learned quite a lot from sewing this first one, so this one went a lot quicker. There's still a few bits that I think, could have been a bit neater, but I think these are quite nice boot covers and they will do the job. And that's all there is to these boot covers. This is what it looks like when they're worn. I hope you guys enjoyed watching, and if you have any questions, I'd love to hear them in the comments. And see you guys next time.